4 o'clock, so we will get started. So welcome everyone to the NCEES end of year presentation for the processes and NCEES for the principal plans. Today's focus will be on principal plans. And you can check the chat for a link to today's slides for this bit.ly, bit.ly/capital letters EOY 22-23 P-AP. You could also screenshot or get the QR code if you want to pull it up on a handheld device as well. So just a little bit about our WebEx meeting. You can use the chat to ask questions. You are also welcome to unmute. We're usually small enough where you can unmute and ask questions as well. So don't hesitate to do that. And we will monitor the chat box for your questions. We can open Q&A. Let me go ahead and open that just in case. If you have a private question, you can open your Q&A and put it in there. But most questions, please do post those in the chat because somebody else is probably thinking of the same question you are. Then you can also use, and I haven't updated this little screenshot with this little Martian man. It's now a blue circle if you need to use and turn on those closed captions with the CC. I am Cami Nairn. I work for NCDPI. I am the NCEES Education Product Consultant underneath Digital Teaching and Learning on the home base team, which means I manage the NCEES Evaluation and Professional Development System. I'm joined by my awesome colleague, Jennifer Bass, our NCEES coordinator, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Good afternoon. As Cami said, my name is Jennifer Bass, and I am the NCEES coordinator at DPI. I work under the Educator Standards and Evaluation division, but Cami and I work very closely. So if you have any questions about the tool itself, Cami is usually the person that answers those. If you have questions about the, what's actually required in policy, that's me. So welcome to the webinar this afternoon.
And don't hesitate to email either one of us or both of us at the same time. We will do our best to get you an answer quickly. So our agenda for today, we're going to look back at getting back into NCEES and the principal homepage, checking any plan access rights, making sure you have those peers and everybody assigned by now, reviewing the principal evaluation process, and then reopening a principal plan to get that started, reviewing any responsibilities of the principal and their evaluator, reviewing the end of year conference, and we'll take a quick look at the teacher evaluation process if we have time. If not, do join us next Tuesday for the teacher evaluation end of year webinar as well, and that link is located in the slides. It will be an in-depth webinar for the teacher evaluation process end of year. We'll also look at the PDP review cycle if time, and then give you some reports and resources at the end. All right, if everybody's good so far, I'll put this link in here one more time just in case folks have just joined us. If you need access to the slides, it is in the chat.
Can I ask a question? Is this just for principals, or I was thinking this was, I do all of the
Oh, I lost your sound. Did it go away?
No, we did. I'm sorry. I do get everything ready for all the APs and everybody to do all the evaluations in the year end. Is this mainly just for principals to do like hours, or is the next week a better one for me?
So you are like the district administrator for your?
No, I'm just at our school.
It may be informative for today. This is about the principal plans, more of a focus. We will cover some of the teacher evaluation processes that the principal then does as the evaluator of the teachers and other staff. That will be more in depth next week, but we will cover some of that today.
Okay, because I set up all the peer observations and do everything like that, but I was trying to decide whether this week or next week was more appropriate for me.
Either one, they'll both be recorded. Yeah, there'll be good information in both, and we will look at assigning those rights as well.
Okay.
We do have a feedback survey that we offer at the end of the live webinars. If you complete that feedback survey, there are 2 questions asking if you would like to receive a certificate. It will have the .1 CEUs that you can turn into your district for approval for your credit needs. And then I also follow up with an email with our frequently asked questions and other answers from today. I did want to throw this in here. This is new. We do now have this, and let me get this link. Let's see if I can get that. This is our NCEES Admin Hub. So when you have time, check and see if you can get out here. This was set up for people that manage the system. The other site, we have a public site that is linked at the end of the slides. But this is a site for people that are setting up NCEES, assigning those rights, making sure the plans are in there, making sure the staff are in the system. So this is that site. If you click on that link and you aren't logged into NCEES Cloud, it will prompt you to log into NCEES Cloud. If you click on that link and you get to NCEES Cloud, go in there and launch it. The other way to get to it is to go into NCEES Cloud and then click on the blue canvas icon, because this is where this site is located. And then you're going to scroll down on the left until you see this home-based resources folder, and then select NCEES. You can also join any of these other home-based products as well if you work with those. You're going to click Enroll in Course after you click on NCEES, and then that will be added to your dashboard in Canvas. If you cannot get to Canvas at all, and there are a few folks out there that can't, they can get into NCEES but not Canvas, or DPI's Blue Canvas, email Corey McNeil, the Canvas Product Manager, and CC myself, Cammie Nerin, on that, and we will make sure that you have an account in Blue Canvas so that you can get to these resources. These are great resources for principals, district administrators, anybody that's setting up and managing items in NCEES. And just a quick look, once you do get into that course, it's a call to course because it's in Canvas, but it's more of a hub of resources. There'll be a link for who you need to contact if you have issues. This middle link for getting started, this is great for if you're new in NCEES. All of these items will help you with what you need to do during the year, our home-based meetups, our help guides, everything you need if you're new. And then the couple slides back showed you all our modules, beginning of year, middle of year, end of year, reporting, the PD component of NCEES, and that year overview. Troubleshooting is great. I've added a lot of videos to help you with troubleshooting or just tips in NCEES on how to do steps in NCEES. And then coming later, we're going to start adding courses so people can take courses to learn about NCEES. All right, any questions about that? We're going to jump into our webinar. Accessing NCEES. So to get back into NCEES, you would open up NCEES. I skipped something somewhere. Sorry about that. Clicking too fast. Principals would land on their principal landing page, and these are the headers that they would see. The main ones they probably work with are the My Staff and the staff evaluations. If somebody has sent them a message, it shows up with a red circle on this envelope icon up here. If you're using the calendar in NCEES, that's accessible in the top row as well. And then your initials, if you have never clicked on there, click on there sometime and look at your snapshot. It gives you some information about yourself in NCEES. Help guides. If you get stuck on steps in the plans as you're trying to finish up the plans, please come check your help guides. So there's help guides for every plan type: comprehensive, standard, abbreviated, late hire, professional development plans, and principal plans as well. Those are kind of cut off down there, but there are help guides for principals as well, and the evaluator of the principals. And then if you're managing the system, there's additional help guides here as well. These are all step-by-step. They're called view and do steps. So if you need to view a step, it'll tell you to view it. If it says do, you need to take action on that step. The second thing at this time of year is we get a lot of questions about peer observations mostly, but mentor as well. So do make sure that somebody is checking all the plan access rights and that they're set correctly. So assigning access rights to the teacher and staff plans, this is the guide for that. It is done under my staff. There are several assignments that can be picked. Evaluator, the person that's completing the summary evaluation, and can access all the observations here as well. And I need to turn this off because I'm slowing down. Let me stop my video. Sorry about that. All right, and then observer and peer observer. I put these in different colored text. This one causes a lot of tickets. So observer is anyone who needs to complete the formal or informal observations for a teacher or a staff throughout the school year. But they can start peer observations, but they cannot sign off on peer observations because they need to have peer observer. So that if the person is a peer observer, don't give them this one, don't give them observer, give them peer observer, because then now they can go start that peer observation and sign off on it. So any questions about peer observers? All right. Then of course there's the mentor. Make sure you know which people have mentors because the mentor signatures cannot be a required step in the NCEES tool just because of the way it's set up, although it is required to be signed if they are on a comprehensive plan for a beginning teacher. So make sure that that mentor is signed before the principal locks off on the evaluation steps. Of course, you can always give people view-only rights or reopen rights. Mainly the people that can assign rights to teacher plans are staff with district administrator rights or site administrator rights. And that's going to be your principal and then anybody else that you've given a site administrator right to. We've had some questions about where can I find information about peer and mentoring and how can I learn about what those requirements are. Here is a link at the bottom for beginning teacher support that includes information about peers and mentors. So that might come in handy for next year as well. The other area to assign access rights to principal plans does not fall under my staff. It used to, but about 3 years ago it moved because people were giving themselves rights to principal plans that should not. So it's now moved over here to staff evaluations, and you can open the principal's plan and assign those rights. I can kind of show you that real quick because I get a lot of questions about why can't I assign principal rights. Now you do have to have district administrator rights to do this step. So I've gone to staff evaluations and I've pulled up my principal plans are here. I'm going to open that principal plan by clicking on the owner's name. And I have this tab right here called Access Rights. And if I'm a district administrator, I'm going to see these new user buttons. And I'll see Evaluator Access right here. So I just click New User and I search for their first and last name, the evaluator of the person in this plan. So the evaluator of this person, I just add it here. And click Search, select their name, and click Done. And then you can see who added evaluators, and if it needs to be removed later, you come back out here and the Remove button is here. If there's not a Remove button, the system saw this person as a person that needed to be added, so they're added on there. Just a quick overview of that process. All right, and then how can I check plan access rights with reports? So if you're in NCEES, you can go to reporting if you're a site administrator or district administrator. Your plans do have to be in active status, meaning they have to be started to show up on the quick reports. So the first area under reporting, you're going to select the module called quick reports, and there you can find mentor relationship report, peer observer relationship report. DAs, district and site administrators can run these, but your results are going to depend on your access rights. and I see that person that said they can't get into Blue Canvas, I will check you after the webinar and we'll set that up. And Lydia, you too, just email cami.naren@dpi.nc.gov and I'll check all those Blue Canvas rates. All right, and then there's also, if you're the district administrator, you can get the ad hoc reporting and create ad hoc reports. To run reports for access rights, you need to go to the Evaluation Access Group section and run a new report there or run one of the saved reports that are out there. All right, we're going to get into the principal evaluation process. Oops. And I'm going to turn that over, I think, to Jennifer at this time.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There are some principal evaluation guides that are out there on our Canvas site, and this is the infographic that you would click on, the principal and assistant principal evaluation process, which is the manual itself. I think Kimmy's going to show that to you.
Yeah, I'm still being a little slow. There we go.
Running a little
Right.
slow. Okay,
Nope.
So if you hit those, there's lots of information out there for principals specifically, and that's where they would go to look for that. And as you can see on your screen, this is a one-pager of the process itself for the principal evaluation process, so the process that principals and APs use throughout the year for their own growth. This one-pager was developed for your convenience so that you could see all 7 steps of our process and identify which forms are optional and which documents are required throughout the year in this process. This document can be found on the principals page in our NCEES site. But today we're going to start focusing on step 6 and step 7 of the evaluation cycle, which is prepare the consolidated performance assessment and the summary of the evaluation conference, which happens at the end of the year. So in step 6, preparing that consolidated performance assessment, it should be happening at the end of the year. The principal or the assistant principal will synthesize all the information that was obtained and collected under steps 4 and 5 throughout the year so that they can prepare the consolidated assessment or comprehensive view of the performance throughout the year. This is a summary of the data and artifacts that they would use to judge performance, and it should be provided to the superintendent or their designee well in advance of the performance discussion so that it can be used at that final performance level, so that when you're discussing, you have all of that information there and ready to go. Looking at step 7, which is the meeting between the principal and the assistant principal or the superintendent and their designee, the principal or AP and their evaluator should meet at the school itself so that they can discuss progress in completing the evaluation processes and to discuss next year's performance goals. And we will expand on this later on in this presentation. But these are the steps that happen at the end of the year for the principal.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer? All right, we're going to look at principal data collection, and this starts in step 4 of that slide that Jennifer was showing you. So step 4, the data collection container. There are a couple of views. If you're a principal, you're going to see data collection. It says it contains 2 activities. One is where you can enter artifacts and notes to support what you are doing so that your evaluator can read over and look over those. And then, of course, the rubric that your evaluator will be filling out. The evaluator view includes the artifacts and notes. So both principal and evaluator can view these. The evaluator can comment on these, add to these, make his own notes in here. However, if the evaluator wants to make a note that is only viewable to the evaluator, they should use this other container here, evaluator notes. So these are notes that are just viewable to the evaluator. And of course, they have access to fill out the rubric of the principal they are evaluating. So how to add those artifacts once you've clicked into the artifacts and notes or the evaluator notes. You're going to get this same screen and you're going to click New Note. You're going to need to enter some text, whatever descriptor you want to put in here in your note to describe the artifact or describe a comment in here. And then you do have the option to tag this text to a standard or an element, and you would do that on this side. Then you do have to save the note, and when you go back in and look at it, then you'll get this attached file area. So if you need to attach the artifact, you have to put your text in, save it, and then you'll get the attached file area selection. Any questions about notes? Okay. So for the end of year review, you'll see it on the screen here. This one has been completed. You see all the green checks. The end of your review, it does document when it was done, when the last status was updated. Consolidated performance assessment. This is where the principal fills out. They prepare a consolidated summary assessment or a comprehensive view of their performance throughout the year for the evaluator to review. And I'll fix that little typo in there. And then finally, the 2 signature steps. So let's take a look at what's next. Inside the consolidated performance assessment, you have another area that you can add artifacts. So you're going to open up the consolidated performance assessment, click into it to edit it, and down at the bottom you're going to see additional artifacts. Click new, and you can add additional artifacts there. This will be a brief summary of any data or artifacts used to judge the principal's performance. So make sure this is done well before that final rubric needs to be filled out and when they're going to have that final conversation about performance levels. We're going to get into the principal's summary evaluation. I'm going to turn this back over to Jennifer.
Okay, we're going to look at step 7 just a little bit closer, which is that summary evaluation conference itself. This is the final step in the principal evaluation process for this school year. Now, the conference should take place at the school site, and it should include the following things: the self-assessment, the consolidated performance assessment, and the summary evaluation form or the rubric. And that should be prepared in advance of this meeting. At this meeting, the principal or AP will sit down with their evaluator and discuss their next year's performance goals based on how they did this year. We often get questions regarding what is required, and as you can see on this document, the steps in red that are in red are required. Those are required documents, but what's in black is a required process. So in other words, all 3 of these things are required for step 7. However, we only require the self-assessment document and the summary evaluation form document to be submitted into the data collection itself. So are there any questions about that?
I don't see any right now, Jennifer.
Okay, I didn't either.
Can you explain where to submit that documentation? Like, the self-assessment's already reflected within NCEES. We're not supposed to scan and upload those in the data collection portal, are we?
Kimmy, when they complete that self-assessment in NCEES, that's when it's actually collected, correct?
Yes, as far as my understanding on the system side, yes. I've not had any questions about do I need to print that out and like re-upload it.
Yeah,
so
I don't
I'm going to say no. It's recorded in the self-assessment in the system.
Yeah, and the rubric is the same. It's in the system. So as you complete it within the system, it automatically uploads into the NCEES file for that principal.
Right. Probably this wording came from when it was
Yeah.
the fillable forms.
Yeah.
Good question though. Thank you.
Very good question.
All right, so I think it jumps back to me. So we're going to begin with the summary evaluation container, and that begins with the evaluator. So they are going to click into summary evaluation. There are 5 activities. The first one is the summary evaluation information, and then the summary evaluation rubric. And let me see if I've got slides. Yes, I do. Summary evaluation information. You would click, the evaluator would click, open it up, and then they'll see this edit button. They'll click to edit this, and these forms that have the asterisks that are required will become editable. So you can put in your evaluator name, the summary evaluation date, and your evaluator title. The next item down is the summary evaluation rubric. I know the dates in here from 2017-18, so nothing has really changed as we get to 2022-23. These steps are still the same. You're going to click into the rubric. You'll see this screen here. The evaluator will click Start New, and then you get this page. So on this page, you are going to probably review that observation scoring summary to help you inform what you need to check on this page. So you're going to do an overall rating with the choose one. And then, of course, you also have the elements in here. You need to make sure you select the total, whether they're developing, proficient, accomplished, or distinguished, or they haven't demonstrated. Like here, school vision, mission and strategic goals, and then leading change, and so on. And then use all of those to determine what rating they should have overall. Jennifer, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that was good. I mean, it's just like the teacher rubric. You collect the data throughout the entire year and all the evidences to decide those rubric scores.
Yeah. And it does give you areas to enter any comments on maybe why that was selected.
Yes.
Any recommended actions for improvement, and then if you have resources to add that they can use to complete any actions you are recommending.
Yeah, and then you would use that information to create the goals for next year.
Good. All right, so once that's complete and you've shared it with the principal, you will then complete the evaluator signatures after you've had, your conversations and everything. You can come in here and do the evaluator signature, and then the principal signature is next. And then there was that last little container right here, next year goals. So this is a good time to think about what your next goals are. That's why they've added that next year goals step there. It doesn't copy over into next year's plan, but it does give you a place where you can go get your thoughts and ideas for next year goals. So you can actually go ahead and set some next year goals here in conjunction with your evaluator if you want. Just click in here and click new and click edit, and then go ahead and set up your goals for next year. So this will be something that you can then put into your next year plan once it's ready over the summer for 23-24. All right, I think we're doing pretty good on time. There is an area in NCEES where the principal can submit a written response. So let's look at those. And this can be done at any point in the plan. It doesn't have to be at the end of the year. It can be at any point. So they're going to click on written response and notice that somebody has to acknowledge that. The written response will go to your evaluator, and then the evaluator will acknowledge. It is optional, so it does not have to be done. However, if you have some concerns or some questions, you can use a written response. You edit it and you select one of the responses concerning. Is it concerning our initial meeting, our mid-year conference, our end-of-year review, or the summary evaluation? And then there'll be a box for you to put in your written response. And then just click Save and Exit, and it will notify the evaluator of your response, and then they have steps to acknowledge that response. So here's that acknowledgement. This is what they'll see, a written response, whatever was entered in your written response, what it was concerning, and then they need to check that they have received this written response to acknowledge that they did see it, and then they'll just click Save and Exit. Okay. That was pretty much the principal plans. Does anybody have any questions that we didn't answer today about the upcoming end of year steps in the principal plan? Okay, we're going to move into the teacher and support staff evaluation process. And I'll
Yes.
turn it back over to Jennifer.
This is what the principals need to be keeping in mind of what their responsibilities are for the teacher evaluation process at the end of the school year. So in front of you, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this process before. You can find it on page 21 of the manual on our NCEES site. But today our focus is mainly going to be on step 4, which is the summary evaluation and goal setting for teachers. However, we want to just take a minute to review the information in step 3 to ensure that all principals know that they should be wrapping up their observation cycles at this time. So yep, there you go. So let's take a quick look at step 3, which is the observation cycle. It includes component 5 and 6, the observations and the post-observation conferences. By this time of the year, you should be in the final round of observations in order to have enough time to actually be able to continue coaching teachers through their growth and improving their practice. As a reminder, if you have teachers with less than 3 years, they are on a comprehensive evaluation cycle, meaning that they must have 3 formal observations by the principal, and they must have at least 1 formal observation by a peer. And keep in mind that all formal observations must have lasted at least 45 minutes or for the entire class period. If you have teachers with more than 3 years of employment, they are on a standard or an abbreviated cycle. If they're on the standard cycle, that's usually the principal would do 3 observations, and 1 of those has to be formal, which is the 45 minutes or full class period. And that's usually reserved for those teachers who are in their renewal cycle year. The abbreviated cycle is for the principal will assign those for those teachers who are not in their renewal cycle and they've been employed more than 3 years. That requires only 2 observations, and it's focusing only on standards 1 and 4. Those observations can last a minimum of 20 minutes or up to the 45-minute full cycle. For component 6, the post-observation conferences themselves, they should take place within 10 school days after the formal observation has occurred. If you do not have that post-observation conference within those 10 days, we strongly recommend that you just do another observation, because the feedback that you would be giving after 10 days really becomes irrelevant and isn't going to be as helpful to improve practice. So we want to always make sure that this process is meaningful and effective in helping teachers in their growth. Post-observations are not required for informal evaluations or observations, that are the 20 minutes, but we do recommend that you do them so that the principals and the teachers have an opportunity to discuss what was seen and best practices. So are there any questions about step 3, the observation cycles or post-conferences?
Nope, not seeing any.
Okay. And this is mostly just a review. Okay, this is also a very helpful chart that will help explain the requirements of the North Carolina evaluation process and the 3 types of the comprehensive, that is for the new and probationary teachers, the standard evaluation, which is for career teachers in their license renewal year, where all 5 standards are observed 3 times a year. And then the abbreviated cycle, which is for career teachers, which requires the 2 observations that is focusing only on standards 1 and 4. So this is a good thing to make sure your teachers know, and it's a good thing to get out to your teachers so that they can know what's required of each cycle type. So just as a brief review, this comes up a lot for Tammy and I when people call and have questions, just both principals and teachers. The observation, this is just a brief review. It's a year-long process, and it's a series of formative assessments throughout the year. And we collect data during each one of the observations that we have in a classroom. We're also, as a principal, collecting data throughout the year, just in our observations of PLC meetings, parent-teacher conferences, just out in the hall, even watching teachers interact with their students. So all of these formative evaluations and all these observations we're collecting, and then at the end of the year, all of this data is considered, including how many times throughout the year each item on the rubric was noted. So all of this comes together at the end and informs that end of year summative evaluation. So our main focus for today is going to focus on step 4, the summary evaluation itself. Component 7 is the summary evaluation conference and the scoring of the teacher's summary rating form. Prior to the end of school years and in accordance with the LEA timelines, the principal should conduct a summary evaluation conference with the teacher to discuss the components of the evaluation cycle type that was used, either the comprehensive, the standard, or the abbreviated. At the conclusion of that meeting, they should have given a rating for each element in the rubric. They should have given a written comment on any element that was marked not demonstrated. They must give an overall rating for each standard within the rubric and provide the teacher with opportunities to add comments to the teacher summary end of rating form. Also review the completed teacher summary end of rating form with the teacher and then secure teacher's signature on the record of teacher evaluation activities and the teacher summary end of year rating form. So these are the things that should happen during that summary evaluation conference. So let's take a quick look at this. When determining the rating for each element, we get a lot of questions about this. The principal is going to identify the first descriptor that has not been marked throughout the year, and I have it circled here in red. The rating for an element is the lowest rubric column category for which all the descriptors were observed at least once during the evaluation cycle, and that is circled on your screen in green. The rating for element 1A, therefore, would be developing. Are there any questions about that?
Could you just repeat that, please?
Yes. Well, the principal's going to do is identify the first descriptor that has not been marked throughout the year. So if you're looking at the developing column and the proficient column, everything has a mark where the number means that 3 times it has been observed when they're doing their observations, understanding how they contribute to the students graduating from high school. So when you go to the next column, the second and the third descriptors have been noted 2 times and 3 times, but the first one has not been noted at all throughout the year. So that's circled in red. So because of that, you have the teacher would be scored based on the one that has all of the descriptors have been noted throughout the year. So this one would be developing. This element under standard 1 would be developing.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. So on the bottom of the screen, you see standard 1 of the summary rating sheet for teachers. What the principal would do, you would mark developing for 1A, leads in the classroom. So this is how we do our summary sheet.
Yeah, so this was that summary evaluation we were looking at earlier, the rubric for the summary evaluation, similar to that. Yeah, checking for each element.
Yes. So as you move through, the same process, you apply that for each element. So on 1B, you would look at it again. The teacher demonstrates leadership in the school. I see on the proficient column and the developing column, I see that it was noted 3 and 2 times throughout the school year during my observations. And then when I move to the next column, collaborates with school personnel and school improvement activities, that was seen 1 time, but assuming leadership was role in the professional learning community was not. So we would revert back to where all of the descriptors were noted and seen, so this would be marked proficient. So then we go onto the summary rating sheet and mark 1B as proficient. So after the ratings for each element are established, you would have an overall rating for each standard. That's when the principal would determine that. So when you're determining the summary evaluation itself, teachers may attach comments and artifacts that they could be considered by the evaluator before making those final standard ratings. So if maybe on leads in the classroom, if the teacher has more evidence that they would like to share, they could attach it and make sure the principal sees it, and that could be adjusted if the principal saw that there was enough information. But they are have the right to add things to that and add standard stuff to each standard. Comments should also be written in all sections to support and reflect the rating. So principals need to make sure that they're writing comments as to why each one of those was scored as it was. Then the teacher's signature indicates that the observation was reviewed. We get a lot of questions about that also. Teacher's signature does not mean that they agree or disagree. It just means that it was reviewed with them. And then the evaluator's signature indicates that they did the review of the observation with the teacher and that they followed the correct process. So let's take a look at standard 4. If you're rating a teacher based on where they are at the time of the summative evaluation, this is another thing that comes up. Do we score someone based on how many checks they have in each column? No. You do look at this, like where they scored, but for example, on standard 4, which is teachers facilitate learning for students, they were developing on knowing the ways in which learning takes place and the appropriate levels of intellectual, physical, social, and emotional development of students. So the principal may view that these things are a little more important or weaker and would overall affect this teacher being effective within the classroom. So on this one, they actually scored the teacher knowing them and all the information they've collected and all their observations. They scored them as developing on standard 4, even though some of those more of those have checks on the proficient side. So it's totally up to the principal and where they think that teacher falls. So it's not always how many checks you have in each box. So for your information, there are explicit directions for completing this end-of-year final summary evaluation, and it's on page 36 of the Teacher Evaluation Manual. So if you have further questions, go to the manual and you can find it there.
All right. Any questions for Jennifer? Okay. So just a quick look on what this looks like in the system and what needs to be done to open that summary evaluation channel or container. So the comprehensive plan, if your staff are on comprehensive, they must have completed and locked observations 1, 2, 3, and that peer is required for anybody on a comprehensive plan. If your district has assigned career teachers that are new to your district, for 1 to 3 years to be on a comprehensive plan, remember that peer observation has to be completed to open up the summary. The standard plan just has to have the 3 observations completed and locked, abbreviated plan 2, and late hire plan 1. Can you do additional? Yes, but these are what are required to open up that summary evaluation. And here is all the lock activities in each of the plan types. So comprehensive, 1, 2, 3, the peer, and then when the summary is done, lock the summary. So how can I tell if people's plans are done? You can tell by verifying that the lock activities have been completed. One of those ways is with reports. and you can go to, let me slide this over here real quick. Go to reporting. Did it fall off? Yeah. Reporting. And you're going to select a module from this first box called Quick Reports. There is this activity lock report that is great to run. This was new a couple of years ago, but that's a good one to run for the current year. And then all of these evaluation summary reports are here as well for when you know that everything's been locked. So run that activity lock report right there as well. Your district administrators can also create reports in ad hoc, and we did hold a webinar on how to create ad hoc reports. If you need any help with that, just reach out to me. The other place staff can go, especially the principals, they can navigate to staff evaluations, because this is where all the active plans show up. And this is where you can look across until you get to this summary evaluation. You can see if it's blue, it's still in progress. If it has a green check, it's completed, but the signatures aren't done. If it has a lock, then it means all the required steps plus both signatures are complete. So that's just a quick visual. And you can use download CSV to report on this. However, the green check and the green check with the lock in that report both show on the report as complete. So we are asking PowerSchool, can we maybe get it to show the green check say complete and the green check with the lock showed locked in the download. So just know if you download that, the green check with the lock and the green check both show as complete. All right, any questions about those reports? There are good ways to check up on those and see who's completed with what. All right, finally, the summary evaluation in the teacher and staff plans does have a container down here, summary evaluation. And then you're going to go to staff evaluations, find that staff name, click on their name to open up their plan, and scroll down to the summary evaluation channel. And here's what the channel looks like when you open it up, and you need to complete all of the activities with asterisk. So the summary evaluation form, that rubric, the evaluation conference, and this is where the evaluator signs, and then the teacher acknowledgement also is required. Written responses are optional for the teacher as well, like we looked at for the principals. And then, of course, once everything's done, the principal will lock the activities. So just a quick summary of who has what step. It starts with the principal for the summary evaluation, and then holding that conference, the teacher acknowledges and sends any written responses they want. If the principal gets a written response from the teacher, they will acknowledge that response. And then once everybody's good to go, everybody's turned in what they wanted to turn in to support their ratings, then you can lock that summary container. This is just a look at the observation scoring summary. And again, this is where, and I don't know if you see it on the screen good, that Jennifer was kind of showing you a while ago, where you can see the number of tallies for each observation. So all the observers will be listed up here at the top. There'll probably be more than 2 for most, but you can see here that this has 2 check marks, that has 2 check marks, 2, 2, 2, and then here's 0. So this first element would go back to proficient. Just put the red boxes to show you that there are tallies in those boxes. You can use that and print it out for when the principal can use it for when they are determining what to check on that summary evaluation. All right, and here's the record of evaluation activity container. In here can be placed notes. So when the first activity here, you would just click edit. The evaluator can enter teacher background. Most districts don't put in teacher background here. What they put in here is, did the staff go on maternity leave this year, or were they out for another reason, or did we change their PDP type for some reason? This is a good place to put those notes in the teacher background. And then also in this section, you can print, it's called print templates. These are actually reports. of the signatures and the steps that were completed in the plan. All right, it's about 10 minutes to. Here's just a quick look at that record of activity report. It lists, this is the teacher, what school year it is, what school they're with. If you see 2 schools listed here, or 2 school districts listed here, do have your HR people check on that. You only want to have a plan that has your district, school, county listed in it. So this person's still active in 2 different locations. You want to make sure you are working in a correct plan. And then, of course, it does list who accepted and who signed off when on each of the activities that have signatures. Here's that end of year reports that we looked at. And again, we went to quick reports under reporting. And then you're going to run those, use the drop down and find those summary reports to run those. Do have these run by Thursday, June 29th. Any reports that are, these run quickly, but if you're running a report, if you're a district administrator running reports that take a day or 2 to run, make sure they're started or before June 29th so that they'll complete. They will complete after plans are stored, or archived, excuse me, by the vendor on June 30th. But try to run as many reports as you need. It's just best in NCEES to run any reports you need for planning for next school year before the current school year is up. And that's because demographics always report on the current school year. So if I ran a ratings report for this year, it's going to show me the school that that teacher's at next year if I run it as a last year report. So run any reports you can this school year to get accurate locations, names, such as that. The ratings will always pull correctly on a past year report, but their location may show different. Plus, you might be having staff leaving after to go to another district, and you want to include those on your reports for next year planning or for information for superintendents, whatever they need. All right, we're going to jump over to the PDP plan. We've got 10 minutes, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. Now we're in component 8, which is the PD plans itself, which is the second part of our step 4 goal setting. To the right on the screen, we have a completed summary rating sheet for teacher. And we would take this and we have to use that to determine what type of PDP plan the teacher will complete for the following school year. So we have the 3 different plans, the individual plan, the monitor plan, and the directed plan. So let's take a look at the overall ratings for each standard. And since this teacher has a rating of developing on standard 4, they would be placed on a monitored growth plan for next year. You can see that. It's in red. Since everything, even though everything else is proficient, they have 1 developing, so we're going to have to put them on a monitored growth plan. And the next screen is going to show you exactly what's involved with each one of the PDP plans. The individual PDP plan is for new teachers and teachers who are rated at least proficient on all of the standards on their teacher summary rating form. This is the one where the teachers develop their own goals for growth. The monitor PDP plan is for teachers who have rated developing on 1 or more standard on the teacher summary rating form. On this plan, the administrator and the teacher would meet to discuss, and they develop their goals together. And it would be monitored a little more closely than an individual plan. If you have a teacher who would be on the directed PDP plan, these are for teachers who have rated not demonstrated on any standard, or they have developing on 1 or more standards for 2 sequential years. So this is somebody who's really struggling. On this plan, the administrator themselves develops the goals for the teachers that is based on the observations and the documentations that they have. And this is the one that it's recommended that you meet with the teacher monthly to see how they're coming along with meeting their goals. So those are the 3 types of plans that we have available. So I'll turn it back over to Cammie, and she'll talk to you about how that looks in the system.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions about PDP plans for Jennifer? Okay. So again, to verify that those plans are complete, you're going to look for those lock activities, and the PDP plans on staff evaluations are in the first set of columns. So you have your PDP self-assessment, initial review, mid-year review. Look for those locked containers there, and the PDP end-of-year review. Orange means somebody has reopened a container for somebody to edit, and they need to go back in and make sure they close those reopen edit statuses if they've corrected whatever needed to be corrected. Also at the top of the page, again, you can go to quick reports, and you have these reports that you can run: the PDP signature completion status and the record of PDP activity. For those of you that run this little graph report here, you can choose evaluation completion report. That is also a great report to go run to show what status the plan is in and if it's fully complete. Just a quick look at the review cycle for a PDP. It starts with the teacher putting in PDP details, and there's a screenshot of what that looks like for them. It then goes to the evaluator to review, choose their goal progress when they get to those mid-year and end of year. You do need to select, this is missed sometimes, and they can say, I can't sign off. Why can't I sign off? It's because they haven't chosen the goal progress of the staff. So make sure that that is in there because it is required. Add any comments and do your signature. If this is a comprehensive plan for a beginning teacher, make sure those mentor signatures are in, and then it goes back to the teacher to review and sign off. And then finally, the evaluator will lock all the activities. All right, just a quick view of the container for the PDP end of year review. Make sure there's that mentor reminder again to make sure that that's signed off if needed. Here's a record of activities in the PDP as well. You actually have 4 reports in the PDP and the record of activities, and there's also that teacher background area as well. Just a reminder that evaluation process for 22-23 is scheduled to close Thursday, June 29th at 5 p.m. for the PSUs. Please try to have all your plans done by June 29th. We do have through June 30th, but I need to run my reports for EVOS on June 30th. So we're asking all the districts to be done with their steps by June 29th. Just check your list if you're the administrator in the system. Make sure your staff lists are accurate. Clean up any unnecessary evaluation plans. Confirm that all the plans are complete. And then run those end of year reports prior to June 29th. So real quickly, some people wanted some information on where can I get CEUs if I'm an administrator. Here is that information on what CEUs I need if I'm an administrator. And then some other information about determining plan types for next school year. Jennifer, did you want to say anything about this page?
This is just a more specific guideline of who would be assigned what type of plan. And there's the screenshot on the right of kind of what I showed you before of which components are required in each plan.
Okay, thank you. I know we only have 2 minutes.
Yes.
So next week's webinar. If you're not registered, please register for that, for the teacher end of year. I do have a survey coming out in the newsletter tomorrow, so don't really have a lot of time right now to talk about this, but this is a survey to enhance the NCEES evaluation component of our system. We are working with PowerSchool to determine which enhancement requests that we've already put in should have priority. So we're asking our districts to look at this wakelet. There are 10 enhancement requests. And you must be a district administrator or a site administrator to complete this survey. You can work with a group or hand this out to other site administrators in your district to complete, to get their input, however you want to complete it. But we just need this completed between March 1st and March 17th. And more information will be in the newsletter. We'll skip over that. This is if you have tickets, please open them. I wanted to get you this link. So please complete our feedback form for today. We always review that. Give us the good and the bad, and if it was too fast, too slow, did you get the information you needed today? If you want that credit, of course, the last two questions, elect to receive that. It will come by email, so you'll print out the body of your email. It looks like this to turn into your district. All right, does anybody have any final questions? If not, we're going to let you guys go. Thank you for joining us for these end of year webinars, and thank you for all you do to get through this school year and support our students by supporting their staff and the teachers. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank y'all. Have a good afternoon.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Bye, y'all. Have a great